Trostani in the main deck. Otherwise, it's a lot. Oh, his deck's all over the place. He has 2 Bonfire, 2 Boros Charm, 2 Garruk Primal Hunter. So a lot of different angles with which he can attack.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, he has a lot of different angles he can attack, and Woodrow has approximately one.
Which is, yeah,
which
so
is
suit
dudes,
up.
yeah, which is dudes and enchantments, and let's rock and roll this bad boy. So, looking at his deck list, we have Avacyn's Pilgrim, Fencing Ace, Invisible Stalker, Smiter, Geist of St. Traft, and then 1 copy of Voice of Resurgence, where a lot of people are playing 4 Voice of Resurgence and have moved away from Fencing Ace. And then he has 4 Ethereal Armor, 4 Rancor, 4 Spectral Flight, 4 Unflinching Courage, and 1 Simic Charm to go along with his lands, and then a sideboard which we will get to momentarily. But Yarbrough is going to start off this game with an Avacyn's Pilgrim. We'll see if Woodrow does have a creature, and he does, and it's the most terrorizing one in the form of an Invisible Stalker, excuse me.
Thomas's deck is not very well equipped to deal with hexproof. He doesn't have, you know, he's not playing black, so he doesn't have any edict effects. When you look at the things that can deal with a suited up creature, the pickings are pretty slim. He has an overloaded Mizium Mortars that could potentially deal with an Invisible Stalker, because that's a real thing. He has 1 Trostani in his main deck, which he can maybe life gain his way past what a suited up creature is doing. But other than that, he has 2 Bonfires. And those are really his ways to interact with, you know, to possibly remove one of these creatures.
And that Bonfire can get outclassed pretty quickly here is the big issue.
Right, and as can the Mortars. So he's essentially going to have to race the hexproof deck, which, if there's an Unflinching Courage involved, is pretty hard to do. Yeah,
that race will end very, very fast. So we're going to see if Woodrow, Bogucki is how it's pronounced, is going to be giving, what kind of beatdowns is he going to be giving this turn?
Yeah, now Thomas kept a 1-lander. His turn 2 play was to was to Farseek, but then he didn't play a land.
Yep. And these are those beatdowns in the form of Spectral Flight and Rancor, so in for 5 in the air.
I always find this amusing that the Invisible Stalker has flying in this situation, because you know that's not relevant. They're actually just playing a blue giant strength.
Yeah. Hey, whatever it takes to get the job done with the Stalker.
It's still within range of an overloaded Mizium Mortars as of now. That's gonna be not true as soon as another aura falls on it.
So Blood Crypt is going to, a Breeding Pool is going to come into play untapped here. Is this an Unflinching Courage too?
I believe it is an Unflinching Courage, and now it's just out of reach.
All right,
and an Ethereal Armor.
Voltron has been assembled. Voltron has been assembled.
This is all 4 of the auras that he plays. It's 1 of each.
Yeah.
So the Invisible Stalker getting +4/+4, 6, 7, 8, +10, +8. So it is an 11/9 trampling, first strike, lifelink, flying.
Fun machine.
Hexproof, unblockable. Yeah. So he has 6 abilities.
Yeah. A couple keywords here and there, and it's just fun for everyone. Oh, Invisible Stalker. Oh, you.
And Thomas does not top deck the Liliana. And
if he top decks Liliana, I think we're just gonna let him cast it.
Yeah, sure. It's like, wow, that was a pretty good top deck. I like how he attacks. All right, attack, put you down to 25, then concede.
Take that, tough guy. So, Bant Hexproof is going to be up a game, and we haven't seen a lot of that deck this weekend. But for anyone who has played with or against Bant Hexproof, that's how things look when it goes how it's supposed to.
I mean, Bant Hexproof is a deck made to prey on mid-range decks, particularly non-black mid-range decks. This has got to be close to the best matchup that Bogucki has.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we saw this deck dominate Grand Prix. The Grand Prix that John Stern and Josh Layton played in the finals. I think it was Atlantic City.
Yep, yes. Grand Prix Atlantic City.
Thank you. You know, that's the reason that we saw that, is because it preyed on those mid-range decks and people didn't see it coming. People see it coming more now, Matthias, but at the same time, if they don't have hate in their sideboard for it, they're just going to get cut up by this deck.
I mean, the question is how much hate you want to play. If you're playing black, you know, you can throw some edict effects in, and that's, you know, and those will all be great, but I mean, once again, we were talking about how sometimes there are decks that beat a strategy and sometimes there are cards that beat a strategy. Bant Hexproof definitely falls into the cards category.
Yeah.
You know, it only cares about 3 to 5 cards, 3 to 5 different cards in the other person's deck. And the question is really, your matchup against Hexproof is going to be determined by how many of those cards are you playing. And in Thomas's situation, the answer is 0 in the main. In the board, not too many more. He does have 2 Ray of Revelation. Those will be excellent.
Yep.
He has 2 Acidic Slimes. Those are not. I guess you can play them.
I mean, you have to play them.
Right, sure.
Because they actually they have text that matters.
You have so many cards that don't do anything. Like, he hasn't assembled the Legion in the main. You know, he has Boros Charms in the main. Those cards are actually not cards.
Yeah, those are blank magic cards, where Assemble the Legion is relatively blank, and it's also expensive, but, I mean, you need a 5-mana disenchant is nobody's friend, but if that's what it takes to actually get you to win the game, then you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right. He also has some 3-mana disenchants in terms of, he has 2 Oblivion Rings, He could board in 2 Nevermores. I don't think he would do that. It's not. I'm trying to think like the only reason you'd even think about touching that card is if you actually think you have that many dead cards in your deck, which I don't think you actually do. You have some bad cards, but not actual dead.
I think those are some pretty big extremes. I mean, he does have 2 copies of Grave Revelation in his sideboard.
Yeah, and that's big game. Yeah. That'll do something.
Yeah, so I mean, those are the big ones that are going to come in, and you can see that Thomas has built his sideboard a little bit with this deck in mind, which is smart of him because it's such a difficult matchup for him. But the big question here is, when building your sideboard for this deck, are you supposed to, basically hope to not get paired against it, or just try to do a little bit of hedging with like two Grave Revelations, a few Oblivion Rings and a few Slimes, or just go, all right, I hope I don't get paired against it because I'm probably not going to beat it anyway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think what you can do, and I think what Thomas is doing, is he's playing cards that also have versatility in other matchups. Like, Grave Revelation presumably is okay against Attention Spheres.
Yeah.
Acidic Slime is actually for the control matchup. It's not actually for this match.
Yes.
So he does have some game here, but I think by and large this is just a matchup he hopes to avoid.
Yeah, and that's just the big question, right? Where if you're hoping to avoid this matchup, then is it correct to dedicate any slots to it, or just roll the dice, hope you don't get paired against it?
Well, what would you have to play to make this a good matchup? You'd probably have to play like a full set of Rays.
Yeah, I think it actually takes like the full 4 Rays, because ideally in a sideboard game, like, you want to draw Grave Revelation against them because that's why you have it. So I like additional copies do not have diminishing returns.
No, second one's great too.
Yeah,
it's like drawing Ancient Grudges against Affinity. You just want more.
Yeah. Because like you are more than good enough to just beat the creatures individually. It's the pants that are the problem. So additional Rays don't have diminishing returns. So if you're trying to beat this deck, I think you start with a full set of Rays. But you see only 2 copies of Grave Revelation, which shows some indecision when building his deck. Of like, yeah, I kind of want a little something here to beat Ban Hexproof, and I want to draw them in the sideboard of games. But is he going to mulligan for Grave Revelation when she has 2 copies of?
Like that, yeah, that's something you can't honestly do that.
Yeah.
So both. Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
He's saying he's going to mulligan.
I'm not keeping this hand. Well, easy.
Yeah, I think what happened is the Bogucki asked, "Are you keeping?" And then Thomas said yes, and started dropping lines. Like, wait,
yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. My hand is terrible. I do not have the combination of cards to defeat you. And again, I do think this is a very difficult matchup for Yarbrough. Again, Naya is a deck that gets preyed on by Ban Hexproof. This is what Ban Hexproof wants to be playing against. Things are going to get a little bit more difficult for Bogucki this round, but again, I don't think it's going to get so crazy for him, even though there's just a little bit of hate. And in his sideboard, he does have some things that are going to help him here, like Sigarda Host of Herons, a card that Naya decks have a large difficulty with.
Right, and I think this is a pretty good tournament for Naya. As you see that, Thomas is 4-0. If there really is as much aggro as it looks like we have here, this is, I think, the only flavor of aggro that has a good Naya matchup. Mm-hmm. Naya's like the perfect anti-aggro mid-range deck.
The reason I like Naya as a deck, and it lines up in certain in certain metagames, is because it is an aggressive deck that it can both attack and play defense. Where a lot of aggressive decks, can't make that shift like a zombies, like a red-green aggro. This is one that can actually make the shift.
I want to talk about something with Tom's deck list as we start right here. He actually is not running any Voice of Resurgence in this deck.
A little bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, he's not to say that the cards he's playing are not powerful. He's still playing three Reckoner, 3 Smiter, 4 Resto.
And here is a Reckoner, as Bogucki does have a Voice of Resurgence of his own. He just does have one in his main deck and none in his sideboard, so drawn that so far. And let's see if we're going to be going to the skies or what enchantment the deer does want to hold.
Yeah, I mean, these games to me feel like they're really dependent on what Woodrow's doing and not so much on what Thomas is doing. If Bogucki's able to put together the combo of creatures plus auras, it seems like he'll get there. I'm not sure he got that put together this turn, which is this game. I mean, which is why it right now looks like Yarbrough's ahead.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be attacking his board right here. This is super interesting to me. Is he just going to serve into the Minotaur here? I mean, I'm taking a look at the spells in his deck. He doesn't have a blue mana for his Simic Charm. So what could he have here that makes this attack good?
It doesn't seem like there's a way to make this relevant.
All right, so here's a Rancor.
That still doesn't matter, does it?
I mean, he gets to trade here, and then the Boros Reckoner's thing goes in the stack. An active player, non-active player, so the Reckoner's damage clause will resolve, and then the Voice of Resurgence Elemental Token will come in. So it would be a trade on the surface.
Interesting enough, Yarbrough just elected to take it.
Yeah. And so here's a Farseek.
Yep, he does have, it looks like a pair of Thrag Tusks in his hand, so he just wants to make sure that he can cast them as soon as next turn.
He's far seeking there with a Temple Garden and a Rootbound Crag, and not that Cassid Wolf Run. So I mean, maybe
well, to me that's just a tell that he has no other plays.
Sure.
You know, if you have no intention of casting anything else, lots of times you'll just tap the first lands that your hand reaches. But because we know his deck does play things like Selesnya Charm, I probably would try to be a little more careful with tapping.
All right, so let's take a draw here. Assuming that, he is representing right now Ray Revelation with that mana open, as the first half of Ray Revelation is white, second half, the flashback, is green. Also is representing First Strike with the Boros Reckoner.
All right, so you said he does have the Ray?
We don't know if he has the Ray, I'm just saying he's representing that.
He has the First Strike on the Reckoner, which is probably the most important part here, that he's, right now, barring any other plays, Bogucki can't attack right now.
Yeah. You see a Spectral Flight in Bogucki's hand, but no blue mana right now.
Yeah, he's going to have to find a way through fairly soon. He gets Unflinching Courage on Voice of Resurgence.
So now Voice is going to be a 4. It's going to be a 6/4.
Well, he's building up, and I really like about what Bogucki's doing is he's not going to swing here. He's building up to an amazing Spectral Flight.
Yeah.
If he draws that blue, he wants to just hit the ground running with it.
Or is he going to attack? So
he
is.
And that's block.
Yeah, can't block fast enough.
Yeah, that seems quite aggressive to me here.
I don't love this play. Like, yes, you're going to clear a Boros Reckoner out of the way, but you're going to lose your Voice of Resurgence. You're going to lose your Unflinching Courage. So at what cost to get that Boros Reckoner out of the way?
Yeah.
He's going to get the Elemental token.
Sure, he has a token. That's fine. But you can't imagine that token's going to be very relevant here. That gets outclassed pretty quickly by an Aya deck.
Yeah, and the way that you're going to make that token relevant is with the Spectral Flight, and if that's the case, like, that was the only way you're going to make anything you had relevant in the first place.
Right, there is a worry that because you aren't putting your auras on a hexproof creature, you're opening yourself up to Selesnya Charm, which is probably more of what you want. You don't want to do that if at all possible. And now we see Thomas's deck has reached its pivotal point of mana. He has Thrag Tusks, plural. He has a Thundermaw Hellkite. He has an Advent of the Worm. Not enough mana to pick 2 in one turn. That won't really happen until 9, but he's going to have a high impact card every turn for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's going to be time. It's time for rares.
Yeah.
That's what it's time for.
And once he runs out of cards, then he has a Wolf Run. So
yeah.
I think that's like one of the things I said before, where it's really important to tap all your mana every turn.
Yeah.
That's something that makes Kessig Wolf Run a really good card.
Mm-hmm.
Is because it always gives you the ability to tap out.
So we see in Yarbrough's hand, he has multiple Thrag Tusk, an Advent of the Worm, and a Thundermaw Hellkite. And so here he's going to start with Thrag Tusk.
I think the first thing he wants to do is just make sure that he doesn't lose on the ground, get his life total to a safe spot, and I think our next play is probably Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah. So after Thrag Tusk does resolve, 5 life, 5/3 in play. Woodrow going to untap, he's going to draw. We'll see what he can come up with. It's the blue
that
mana.
Was the blue source.
Yep.
So, it's trying not to be one of those I told you so moments, but it looks like, okay, what he was doing, it appears like he's saving the Spectral Flight because he wants it on Geist of St. Trapt more than he wants it anywhere else.
Sure, and of course he doesn't have the deck list for Yarbrough, but I mean, if you're playing against an Aya deck, I think you can assume that there's probably some number of Thundermaw Hellkites like lying around in there.
I mean, if you're just committed to saying this Spectral Flight is going to go on Geist of St. Trapt, then are we okay with that attack last turn with trading the Voice of Resurgence?
Still no. Because I think your commitment to putting Spectral Flight on Geist of St. Trapt is just wrong to begin with.
Well, sure.
Because if your plan is to build a large Geist of St. Trapt, then why are we putting Unflinching Courage? Why are we putting Unflinching Courage onto the?
So you should just pass the turn.
Yeah. Why are we putting Unflinching Courage on that?
Maybe you
Voice
have another
with?
Unflinching Courage. That's a potential reason.
Yeah, that's true.
Even so, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that you go with that line. A Geist of St. Trapt with Spectral Flight and then a couple other auras though can be near impossible for decks to answer.
Yeah, borderline. Is now you see a Thundermaw Hellkite and just passing the turn here. So Thundermaw Hellkite's going to try to play a little defense.
If he can go land, flight, unflinching courage, that's going to be some pretty big game.
Yeah, Ethereal Armor will also get the job done too. Heck, even double Spectral Flight will be a good start because it'll give it 6 toughness.
Right, and he's ahead on life points, so he actually can race without the unflinching courage.
Mm-hmm. So 2 mana being tapped. One of them looks like they're going to be blue, so it might be Spectral Flight time, my friends. It might be.
Might be. Yeah, it's gotta be. He's been saving it for this creature. Alright, so now it's up to being a 6/4. Still not time to attack with it yet. Unless he has an ethereal armor, in which case it is time to attack with it. Let's see. Whoa there. So he's offering the trade with, it appears he's offering a trade with Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a Selesnya Charm to me, but at the same time, if it's a Selesnya Charm, you would just off the dragon and get in for 10.
Yeah.
I
mean, he can't actually just want this trade to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if we see this Geist of St. Trap die to the Thundermaw Hellkite, then I feel like there's been a huge error in the allocation of resources this game.
And it does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Geist could have won. That Geist had the potential to win the game by itself, especially if you have the unflinching courage, not being played on Voice of Resurgence. Then, that turn you can just. The point of Banned Hexproof is just to build something that your opponent can't possibly answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing here is that, the idea behind Banned Hexproof is you build an unbeatable threat. You don't trade your threats with their answers.
Right.
That's the point, is that the answers that they have available aren't good enough.
Well, every time you trade, you 2-for-1 yourself there, right? You lost a Geist and a Spectral Flight, he lost a Dragon. And it looks like they're discussing whether or not he missed the Rancor trigger.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he did.
He hasn't done anything since binning the creature, and Rancor does actually touch the graveyard, so I don't think there's anything wrong with how Bogucki did that.
Yeah. But we'll get the spotter's confirmation. It looks like we're good to go.
Yep, looks like the Rancor was allowed to return to his hand. And we've seen Tristani Selesnya's Voice, drawn by Yarbrough. That is, the repeatable life gain of that card, at least in my opinion, is one of the ways that Thomas can actually, and I'm going to put in quotes here, answer one of the hexproofed creatures. He can actually out-life gain what it does.
Yeah. One of the very few ways, as you put it. Playing very conservatively here with that
not
Drag
swinging
Tusk.
this Drag Tusk. Still leaving up, and it's strange that the 2 lands he's chosen to leave up are Cavern of Souls casting Wolfrun.
Well, depending on what Tristani has named, or depending on what Cavern of Souls is named, because Tristani's casting cost is so difficult with the green,
he has
white,
to
white.
do that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the on what the Cavern is naming.
Okay. I mean, there are very few instances in his deck that Bogucki actually cares about, and to a certain degree, Bant Hexproof doesn't play around things anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this is an all-in archetype.
Yeah, it's like, you don't really play around. When you can, you play around things, but usually you can't.
Yeah.
You'll have 1 creature in hand and 3 auras in hand, and you say, well, yes, I'm going to put these auras on this creature.
So here's a Geist of St. Trapped. Here is an Invisible Stalker. The elemental token's going to become a 3/3, and then pass it back.
I mean, and Bogucki's line when he traded away that last Geist of St. Trap, I think, was probably that he had another one in hand. He said, oh, it's fine to trade this Geist. And actually, I think it's okay to trade the Geist there. I'm not okay trading the Spectral Flight.
Yeah, that's the big one. If you have backup creatures, that's fine. That means you don't have backup enchantments, and that means that every enchantment that you do draw, you need to get maximum.
Yeah.
You need to get the maximum out of.
Remember that Geist of St. Trap, just by itself, is not actually good here. It needs probably 2 auras on it before it's a good card.
I mean, look at the creatures out on the battlefield and that are looming in Yarbrough's hand. Those cards all laugh at Geist of St. Trap.
Because Yarbrough has a Selesnya in play and an Advent of the Worm in his hand, and he's going to start making Thrag Tusk and populating Advent of the Worm tokens, you need to be dealing massive amounts of damage every turn to race that. And I'm not even sure you can race that.
We're looking at life gains of around 5 to 10 life a turn, as you guys do see Tristani on the screen.
Yeah, and we know there's an excellent token in Yarbrough's hand that's about to get populated.
Mm-hmm. And I think I like this attack a lot. It's time to try to get this game over with and shorten the number of draw steps that Bogucki actually gets the opportunity to have access to.
All right, so let's think. Well, how Woodrow or Bogucki needs to get at least 2 auras on this Geist, preferably more.
At least 2.
Right, so right now it swings for 6. If you get a situation where if one of them is Spectral Flight, now you're swinging for 8 a turn. The difference is that Yarbrough is swinging 5 a turn right now. It looks like he's going to start swinging 10 and gaining about 8. So Yarbrough is doing a life swing of 18 every turn, so you need to be swinging back. like there has to be an unflinching courage involved in this.
That's going to be step 1.
Yeah, step 1 is Spectral Flight and unflinching courage, for sure. And even then, I'm not sure it's enough, because it's not like Yarbrough only swings for 10 one turn. As he populates that worm token, he gets to keep swinging with more worm tokens.
Yeah, he keeps
it's like 10, 15, 20.
Yeah, he gets to keep adding for how much he's swinging.
Yeah, I'm not sure, unless he has something that gives double strike to a creature, which I don't think he has. I don't know if Bogucki can actually deal enough damage.
All right, so this is probably going to be the Rancor that we know he has.
So they're going to start suiting up things. He's going to go with Geist. That suggests he has a Spectral Flight because he's not putting it on Invisible Stalker.
Mm-hmm. So second Rancor. So now it's a 6/2.
And 3 auras, and another Invisible Stalker. So once again, surprised that these Rancors didn't go on a Stalker then.
Sure.
I mean, I guess it's fine putting it on Geist because when the Geist dies, you can just re-put him on Stalker, so you get a swing here.
So now we get to see Geist come across, Angel kind of come across along with the Stalker and the Voice of Resurgence token.
Right. I don't know if Yarbrough blocks. I don't think he wants to lose the Tristani, and I don't think he wants to lose the worm. He definitely does not want to lose that worm token.
Yeah, the worm is way too important to lose.
I mean, the combination of worm and Tristani is probably just too important to lose.
Yeah.
Can he, so he's going to go to 18. Question number 1, can he take all this damage? It's 6, 10, 15, 16, 17. It would put him to 1 to take all of this.
That's a little bit scary.
It's a little lower than I want to be at.
Yeah. I mean, the Thragtusk is gonna push him up 10.
Right, if he gains another, it's too, so Tristani's just toughness though, right? Or it gains like equal to toughness? Yeah, so it's toughness, so it's only 8. So if he draws another land, he has gain 8, gain 5, he can gain 13 this turn, off populating the worm and casting a Thragtusk.
So we're gonna go down the 1, if he draws a land, down the 1 up to 14?
Yeah, up to 14. He's only taking 6 damage unblocked. I think that's actually fine.
Yeah, I think so, because then you have some blockers too.
So I think you're actually supposed to go to 1 here, as terrifying as that is.
Now again, one thing to keep in mind too is that the land that he needs to draw needs to be not a Ravnica land.
Right.
Too, because he needs an untapped land that doesn't deal damage.
Let's say he doesn't get an untapped land then, because that's kind of a lot to ask for. Is he still alive in that situation where he just gets to cast Thragtusk? So he gains 8, goes to 9, leaves back 2 Thragtusks to block. There would be 6 damage unblocked, and 6 trampling. He probably can survive the turn, even if he doesn't draw the untapped land, unless, of course, Bogucki draws, say, a Ethereal Armor, then you're probably just dead, or Spectral Flight.
Additionally, too, he can, I guess it doesn't have to be an untapped land, because what he can do is he can go, all right, he
can
draws
populate first.
Yeah, he can populate first to gain 5 life. So I think that's actually, I guess any land is going to be okay, but he might get himself in a situation where he just needs to draw any land.
Taking it all goes to, confirm it's to 1, it's 5, 6, 5 off the Elemental token, 6 with the Stalker, 6 more with a Geist to Saint Traps, it's 12, then 4 from the Angels, 16 in the Stalker. Oh, the freshly played Stalker can't attack, so it's 2.
Yep.
Right. And Bogucki correctly played the Stalker pre-combat to get an extra point on the voice token.
Absolutely.
And we see Boros Charm as the draw for Yarbrough. I'm a little surprised to see that card still in his deck, actually.
I feel the exact same way as you do. So here's Thragtusk.
Surprisingly enough, though, he's going to be rewarded right now for playing.
Is that actually going to be lethal? 5, 10, 11, 12.
Well, remember Yarbrough, because of the Boros Charm, can block with everything and just make him go indestructible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what mode is best here for the Boros Charm, as all 3 modes are. It's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's got to be the
Spectral Flight was his draw.
So a Spectral Flight, if that's his draw, he has unblockable 2 off the Stalkers. That would be 8, 12 off the Geist. That would be lethal if Spectral Flight is his draw.
That's his draw.
Yeah, if Spectral Flight's the Geist, he just gets this. Because Yarbrough has no ability to block flyers, and that would be You know, that's 10 just off what's on the board. Bogucki's just, I think, you know, playing it careful, confirming that yes, this is lethal. Even if it's not lethal, it's still your play, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you can't play around anything.
Right? It's like you're definitely dead if this thing starts populating. And it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't actually matter who puts it. And there you go, Spectral Flight on Geist Saint Trapped. And that was the draw he needed. I almost want to say that's the only draw that works for him. I don't even know if Ethereal Armor gets it.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have the second Spectral Flight for the Geist.
That makes it a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus the Angel makes it 12, 13, 14 from the Stalker. Yeah.
14 unblockable damage. That should be enough to kill.
So you see both players kind of looking at each other, and so long as Bogucki doesn't forget this Angel token.
He doesn't even need the Angel token, actually. He has 10 just on the creature.
Yeah, you're right. And he doesn't even need that either.
He can forget his Angel token. It's fine.
Stalkers can play defense.
I mean, you do want to remember it in case your opponent plays Celestial Charm, and Celestial Charm would gain 2 life. You wouldn't want to lose to that happening.
Sure.
So, like, as a good matter of principle, well, you should just always remember your Angel token. But, you know, there is a line where that matters.
You see him thinking this through, just thinking about what can I lose to. Do you have Fog in your deck? Or any other
Ray of Revelation. Ray of Revelation would get you, but you can't play around it.
Yeah. You're just all in at that point.
Right. And Ray is not in Yarbrough's hand, as we know, and that should be lethal. Just mulling over it, wants to confirm that he can't do anything about this. Certainly a game, I think, where Yarbrough felt like he had to.
I thought that the tide was certainly turning. With the creatures dying that had the auras on them, I thought that things were really turning back to Yarbrough's direction.
I mean, there are very few. This is about the last turn that Bogucki had before this game got comically out of control.
Yeah.
And I think Bogucki's deck came through for him.
You play the card to draw.
Yep.
That's the best way to look at it. He's taking a look at the Boros Charm, thinking, what can I do with this? But the Boros Charm doesn't have any relevant text right now, and the last card in his hand is one that Yarbrough cannot cast. So the blocks simply are not there. Yeah, he can block there, yeah. He's going to cast Boros Charm.
And actually, against all these mid-range decks, so yesterday, both these players playing in their second open, Bogucki actually managed to play Banned Hexproof to a top 64 finish yesterday, a 7-3 record. I think it seems as long as there's no control, this is a pretty well-positioned positioned meta for the Hexproof deck.
Yeah, I agree with you. As you did see the Boros Charm get cast on the Elemental token to give it double strike, kills the Thragtusk. Then the Tristani trigger is going to gain 3 life, put Yarbrough up to 13, and he's going to take 14 exactly. So. So, we have Bogucki does win the match 2-0. Banned Hexproof preying on Nile once again.
A rough matchup for Thomas to hit. I think he had some opportunities game 2. I think maybe even more opportunities than he should have had. Still wasn't able to get it.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this at the top too. That this is the reason that Banned Hexproof is a deck mostly, right? Like, it's here to pick on this deck. To an extent, it's here to pick on Junk Reanimator as well. And if people do not have, specific cards against this deck, and it does fold to cards very easily, but if they don't have those cards,
John's cutting their Lilianas right now.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of things that would say that Hexproof's a fine deck to be playing at the moment.
I mean, if you're comfortable playing